The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Hi, I'm Prem Sai, founder of Enhanced Life Skill and a certified life coach. Very excited to welcome Karthi Vidya, who has lived by an example and is in a very successful journey to inspire every Indian to volunteer and create a culture of volunteering in India. Karti is the founder and CEO of an NGO, Team Everest, which works to create a culture of volunteering in India. And as of now, Team Everest work with 25,000 volunteers and touching the lives of 40,000 children a year. So let's hear from Karti about his journey from a full-time Java developer to be the founder of Team Everest and full-time volunteering. So hi Karti, welcome to this platform of Enhanced Life Skill and thank you so much for giving us your time. How are you?
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. So Karti, okay. So one question which, where the moment when I, was looking at your name, one thing just clicked in my head is Vidya your surname?
Yeah. So Vidya is my wife name, which I actually added to my actual name.
Oh wow! I mean, it's a beautiful gesture, and it's being. I have seen people like wife adding their husband's name. So you adding Vidya's name is really, it's really wonderful to know about it. So yeah, Karti, please tell us your journey from being a Java developer to volunteering, and what made you take this decision to, because I know that you are into a corporate role, well-established job, and you started Team Everest after quitting that particular job. So how is the journey? If you can tell our viewers.
Sure. So the non-profit that I run is called Team Everest. So it's a 14 years old organization. So I started this organization in 2006 when I'm fresh out of engineering. But the inspiration for starting this actually came during my school days. So I come from a place called Arani, which is a small town in Tamil Nadu, 150 kilometers from Chennai. So I used to study there, and in fact, during my 7th to 10th grade, I used to travel to nearby village, and I used to study in a very one of the rural school over there. So a lot of children there, come from very underprivileged background. In fact, I used to have a friend, so we used to sit on the same bench. We used to play together. We used to have lunch together. So whenever my maths teacher asked to buy a notebook, right, it will take him like 10 or 15 days to buy the notebook, because that notebook cost like 20 rupees, 25 rupees at the time, and he couldn't afford it. So what he will do is he will go back home. He will work with his father. His father is a cycle mechanic. So in a small village actually. So like how many customers you will have? Not many, right? So you will earn like 2 rupees, 3 rupees a day, like that you will earn, and it will take him 10 or 15 days to buy that notebook. So till the time, right, my teacher used to punish him. He will make him kneel down or stand outside the classroom because he couldn't afford these things on time. So because he's one of my close friend, while having lunch, he used to share his feeling. So he used to feel bad because he comes from a poor family. He couldn't afford some of these things.
Mhm.
So I always used to tell this story whenever I talk about Team Everest, because it made a huge impact during my school days. And majority of the children whom I am seeing there is like coming from a very similar background. So I got some good marks in 10th. In fact, I scored school first in my 10th standard in that school. So my mom thought, okay, why don't we invest on this kid and help him get better education? So, so my family decided to put me in one of the top 10 private schools in Chennai. So we didn't have enough money. So my family got some loan and they put me in one of the school in Chennai. So once I joined this private school, right, I observed a couple of things. One, a lot of children here were coming from very, very financially rich background. So till 10th, I'm seeing very poor students. Suddenly here, I'm seeing very, very rich students. But the most contrasting difference is the difference in quality of education. So the kind of education I got in the school is like 100, 200 times better than what I used to get in a village. So as a 11th standard kid, this was disturbing me so much because still my friends were studying way back in the whole school itself, and just because I pay money, I get one kind of education. The others, like they get a different kind of education. So I felt this is fair, because what is happening is you have money, you get one kind of education. You don't have money, you get a different kind of education altogether. So I thought I should do something about that. And till like finishing my schooling, I was in a hostel, so I couldn't do much. So till 12th, um, So till 12th, I am in an hostel, so I couldn't do much. So I completed my schooling. I joined engineering in Salem. I'm a metallurgical engineer. So during my weekends, right, I used to volunteer locally. I used to go to small orphanages, visually challenged homes over there, old age homes, and I used to volunteer as an individual. But during my final year, something interesting happened. So I got campus recruited in Cognizant, one of the IT company there, and that's when I decided, like, okay, now I have a job also. Probably once I join my job, I will start volunteering. Like start a small team and make more people to volunteer. So that's where the starting point was. So I joined Cognizant in Chennai, OMR Road, in 2006. August, actually, I still remember August 21, 2006. I joined Cognizant, and like after joining that, I got my first month salary on August 30th. And after getting the salary, I went asked some of my friends also to contribute for a social cause. So I collected around 4,000 rupees. And after collecting that money, we went to a school, like in a place called Sirumur in Tamil Nadu. It's a small village where we identify children, very financially poor children, and we supported them with uniforms, dictionaries, stationaries, and all. So that is the very first activity of Team Everest. That's how this organization started.
Okay, okay. So
And yeah, sorry.
yeah. So actually, I think exactly after you got your first salary from Cognizant, after that, this idea, got clicked in your mind that you need to, you have a dream to start
Yeah.
a team.
Yeah.
Particular.
So not just after getting the salary, during my final year itself, I decided. So in fact, I decided around ninth standard, something like that. I thought I should be in the sector, but I didn't have much guidance and all. But that resolve to do something back to the society was always there. So I decided, like I asked one of my junior to design the Team Everest logo, which you are already seeing. I decided the name, I decided the logo, everything, and I was just waiting to join the corporate, and then we started this non-profit actually.
Okay, okay. So you
Yeah.
said, Karthi, that this idea got conceived when you were in ninth standard, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, my next question comes from there. What was the breakthrough that might have happened in your childhood? I don't know whether how conscious you were, or did you get it? Were you conscious about that? That was the breakthrough for which you got an idea, or maybe an inspiration that uh, that you knew yourself that you were inclined towards volunteering. So, do you can you recall any?
Yes, so much. See, actually, like during my fifth grade, when my teacher asked me what I want to become, I told I want to become a scientist.
Oh, okay.
And around, like seventh, eighth grade, I told, like I want to become a cricketer.
Oh,
So, and like, so one of my close friend actually told, like, so while, like I had a sleepover in his home, he was telling, Karthi, we come from very moderate background, so we can't probably become a cricketer and all, because you need to spend a lot of money there. And I trusted my friend, like, and I stopped dreaming to become a cricketer. And then so all this incident happened. So around eighth and ninth, like I decided, okay, we should do social work kind of. Luckily, I didn't have anyone else to come and tell that you can't do social work, and here I am today. So it's been 14 years since I'm running this organization right now.
absolutely, it is lucky. I must tell you, it is lucky because there are definitely few factors which plays a very important role to stop what you want to be always. Yeah. So, Karti, from there, another question comes to my mind that definitely, I'm sure there would be some impact of your parents, experiences, or maybe the journey of your childhood. So, do you recall anything like how about your impact of your parents on your life, and maybe
Yeah.
some?
So much actually. So in fact, like my parents were my first role models actually.
Oh,
So my father used to volunteer a lot. He used to volunteer in local clubs. He used to do a lot of high donation, blood donations, camps he used to run. So he's part of Rotaract Club, Red Cross, Lions Club, whatever clubs was there, like he's been part of all those things, and always inspired to do social work. So I basically learned it from my father. So he was my first starting point, and my mother as well. So she was a government school teacher, and then she's a government school principal. So both of them are no more now, they passed away. But like they made a huge impact on my life, and the values that they taught. And like my inspiration, I always tell, were actually my parents, and then I used to tell Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Abdul Kalam, and Sachin Tendulkar. So like, and so these were people who, like if you look at Abdul Kalam, Sachin Tendulkar, and all, they talk lot about values, putting values behind everything, right in front of everything. So my parents also used to tell how important values are. So like, so those, it's those kinds of things that inspired me to actually take up this path.
Okay. Any incident? Do you remember any incident with your mom, with your mother, with your father that might have just have have made you think or provoke that thinking aspect of this to be in this particular?
No, see, as such, like I told you, right? My father used to volunteer very, very frequently. I have always seen, like at a midnight, suddenly at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I have seen my father either going out or coming back in home. He will go and take bath and then come back. I always used to wonder as a child. I don't understand why he was doing that. But later, when I grew up, right, I actually understood that he, like someone would have called him, that like someone in the town would have passed away, and they want to make an eye donation, or eye donation, he will go facilitate it with the doctor and help with the eye donation, and then come back home, and then because he went to a place where death has happened, right, he need to come back, take bath, and then come to home. So I've seen this, all these things actually happening. So yeah, and they always emphasized on giving back. I have seen them giving back to my relatives, to other people, actually, like even with people whom like they might have had a fight also. I have never seen my father and mother actually blaming them or talking something negative about them. I've never seen that. Even if they had a fight with someone, right, they probably, I remember they had a fight, like there was one fight with one of the relative, but and they like stopped talking with their parents, but still my parents went and actually like put an LIC policy on their daughter's name. So that's the kind of attitude they had. Like I think I don't know, maybe in Tamil they tell like like I think in Bible they used to tell like, I mean, like if they slap in one side, show the other side also. So ஒரு கன்னத்தில் அறைந்தார் மறு கன்னத்தை காட்டு அப்படி. So that was the tagline, right? That's what I have seen. Like just because someone hurts you doesn't mean you want to hurt others. What I have seen is, even if someone hurts, don't change your character for them. Stay true, be who you are. I think that's one of the biggest lesson I have learned. So I've never seen my parents hurting anyone, or like thinking, even the thoughts, in terms of thoughts also, not thinking bad about someone. I think that made a huge influence on me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can relate to it, Karthi, because being a life coach, when I conduct emotional intelligence session, we talk about like how thought impacts the whole process, right? And so being compassionate is one of the greatest strength a person, a human being can have, and that gives you a lot of strength from within. I think, I mean, wonderful parent and childhood you had, and wonderful parent you were blessed with. I must say that. So, so Karthi, next question is like, definitely, for sure, you might have faced many challenges in the whole process of what you are today and when you started your journey. So, what were the main challenges that stood between you and your mission, and how did you overcome them? And what was, can you remember any of the challenges which were very difficult? You were not finding ways to overcome that, and then finally you got through. So, if you can talk about few really challenging moments.
Yeah. See, I mean, whenever you do anything on your own, right, there are always challenges. And I always say life is not interesting if you don't have any challenges, right? I mean, challenges makes your life more interesting and fun, actually. So that's the way I look at it. So yeah, see, one of the things is like, yeah, so I did my metallurgical engineering, then I joined an IT company as a Java developer, then I moved to CSR, corporate social responsibility sector, within the company, and then like I quit my job and running a non-profit today. And today, being the founder and CEO of this organization, right? So you need to do, I mean, it's like running non-profit is like running any other for-profit businesses. Only part is the profit part of it. You don't make any profit, but it's very similar to how you run a startup or a company. You need to know everything about it. So one thing I figured it out is, right, I struggled with managing all the departments because like I probably am a little techy, but I don't know anything about, say, finance, admin, HR, and all those other stuff. So running an organization, that's when I figured it out. Like we need to know a lot more than what we have been trained for. So I found out our like our academics or school, college education is not preparing us for the future. So I need to like spend a lot of time learning, reading books, I mean, speaking with others, interacting, learning from each other, and develop skills, so that like you run an organization with, say, 25,000 volunteers helping 40,000 children. So as a founder, like as a leader, guiding the team, building those crucial skills and how to handle, say, conflicts, or how do you make your team work for your cause. So, or how do you communicate to others? So all these features, right? And when I would say we have not cracked everything, I would always say, like everyone is a work in progress, WIP only. So I still keep learning, and I feel, like I get very excited when I keep learning, and like I always see gaps, no matter what, whatever you learn, you always, there are many things unknown to you than whatever you can know. So I think that makes it very interesting, and I love those kinds of challenges.
So you started with yourself, and what is the team size of Team Everest now, and how did you build that team, and what was the challenges, or what were easy, what were difficult for you, and how did you convince those people who are working with you now, being like in Team Everest? How did you convince them about, or maybe how did they join, aligning with your dreams? So how if you can say something about that.
Yeah. See, we have around 30 employees right now. So we started in 2006 with 0 employees till 2014. So till the time I worked in Cognizant, we didn't have any employees at all. We had few part-timers in the villages who were teaching to rural children as teachers and all, but we didn't have any full-time employee till 2014. So I quit the job, I came out. So 2015, like we hired our first employee, because and we were managing everything, and slowly, like adding people. So he was another person who quit from a corporate and wanted to be in social sector. So he joined the social sector, and then we found out, and slowly, like, so we started reaching out to people. So we are already 8 years old, so a lot of people know about our work already. And slowly now, like when we started our scholarship programs, and slowly, like we told people what is our mission, and slowly we started adding people. So every year we slowly started adding 1 people, 2 people, like that. So it's been 6 years since I quit the job and slowly added it. So we don't need to convince anyone. So it's like a proper job only. So we put our job description, and then people apply for it. And then knowing that, we clearly tell them we are a non-profit organization. And beyond the skill, we look into their passion. So we run a fellowship program called I Am the Change Fellowship. So where we ask young people to become a part of the social sector, and we pay a small stipend to them as well. So it's a 2 years fellowship that they commit to. So where we expose them to the social sector, working with children, working with government schools, and how do you run volunteering programs, all those things, so that like these young people learn how the social sector works, so that like when they grow up, they can make a much bigger impact in the society.
Absolutely, yeah. So this fellowship program, is it related to kind of internship program for those people?
So this is like a full-time job. We call it as a fellowship. It's both, they learn in the process of actually doing real-time projects. Okay. So we put them in real-time projects, running, like various initiatives of Team Everest. So the process is by learning by doing. So that's what this fellowship is all about.
That's the best way to know everything in life. So yeah, so I was going through the Team Everest website, and Karthi, I was very much impressed to see few of the programs. Even I also wanted to know in detail about it. So like few programs, like the one you said, I'm the Change Scholarship Program that you just spoke about. I think it is for the youth, right? For college students, basically.
Correct. Yeah. So what I spoke about is I'm the Change Fellowship. So that is for a 2 years fellowship where we pay stipend and people work on social sector. I Am the Change Scholarship is a scholarship program we launched in 2016, where we identify parentless students, single parental students, and we sponsor them for the UG degree. So when I say parentless children, right, they don't come from orphanages. They are taken care by grandma, grandpa, aunt, or uncle. And when you say single parental, almost 90% of their children, like they lost their father and living with a single mother, who will be mostly illiterate, and their average income would be around 6,000, 7,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees a month. So that's the kind of background we take children from. And currently we are sponsoring like around 800 children for their UG degree. They come from some 150 different colleges.
Okay. So when you talk about this scholarship program, just to to go a little one step ahead. So are you running this pan India, or you are focusing on particular state?
See,
how people know that you are doing this, because that's the most important aspect of it. Awareness. Right?
Got it. See, this scholarship program that we know is not just a financial assistance program. We call it as a 360-degree scholarship. So what we actually do is we identify children, and we give them financial assistance training. We give them internships, and finally we also help them connecting with some of the corporates that we know, and we help them, like even get a job also. So so what happens is, to do all these things, right, you need to be very location specific. So if it's pan India, you can only financially sponsor them, but you can't do anything else beyond that. So it's a very location specific scholarship program. Right now it's happening in Chennai, Coimbatore and Madurai, all within Tamil Nadu. But in 2021 we're trying to expand it to 3 more places: Bangalore, Pune and Mumbai. So yeah.
So basically, Team Everest is established there in Chennai, right? So are you planning to also? I'm sure that virtually you're present all over. However, just are you planning to set up your office in other parts of the country as well, so that these programs can also be done in that local area?
Yeah, see, we work in 7 places where we have our employees. We operate in Chennai, Coimbatore, Madurai, and Arani, my native. So in and around the villages we work, and then Bangalore, Mumbai, and Pune we already operate. So probably we might expand to 2 or 3 more places, not more than that. But our volunteers come from across the country and in fact across the globe. We have we have currently 25,000 volunteers. 19,000 volunteers comes from various parts of India, and some 6,000 people comes from outside India. So they come from some 30 different countries. So all Indians, but wanting to give back to the society.
Absolutely. I mean, you're doing a great job. So, and few more star programs, Karthi, I was very much, interested to know about is, uh, I got to, read a very nice word is Kindness Club. So, I have just picked up this so that, when people get to watch this video, they would also know about these things. So that we can create that awareness. So what is Kindness Club is all about, and what is this program?
Yeah. See, the vision of Team Everest is to promote volunteering in the country and to inspire every Indian to volunteer. Because I strongly believe, when you inspire individuals and teach them empathy and kindness, right, they can make a huge difference in the country. No matter how many non-profits you have or how many, say, state governments or central governments you have, when you empower an individual, right, they can make a huge difference. Because we are a country of billion people. Imagine 130 crore people. Imagine so many people volunteer. Imagine the kind of impact you could create. So that is the overall idea. And what I figured it out, see, we work with a lot of young people. We work with corporates. I used to go do floor shows in a lot of corporates also. And what I figured it out is, right, see, somewhere we don't teach or encourage people to volunteer when they are young. See, if you look at the way our family operates, right, when we are small, see, as a family, we go to a movie, we go to a temple, we go to shopping, we go to a beach. But as a family, we don't go and volunteer. We have not seen that. But we talk about those values. Sometimes your parents speak about it, or you learn, you hear it from your teacher, all those things. But you actually don't go and volunteer. So when people grow up, right, it has not been part and parcel of their life. So people always put volunteering at, say, priority number 15 or 16 or 20, something like that. And in your busy life, right, you don't go beyond your priority, say 5 or 10 itself. You don't have so much time to do that. So people always choose volunteering. Majority of people choose, okay, when I find time, I will do volunteering. Mm-hmm. But hey, how do you then probably make this, say, your top 5 or top 10, so that, despite, even if you are busy, can you make it part and parcel of your life? Can it be like a day-to-day habit? So can giving and compassion could be something which you practice every day. So that's the idea behind Kindness Club. So if you want to create that kind of a country where everyone volunteers, everyone takes volunteering seriously, then you need to start teaching that at a young age. So that's where this idea of Kindness Clubs came in. So which we started in few schools, and we encourage young children to volunteer. And just last Children's Day, we launched something called as Children Volunteering. So if you go to our website, www.teameverest.ngo, you will see something called as a Children Volunteering there. So anyone from the age of 3 till college students could volunteer actually. So we have exclusive virtual volunteering programs at the comfort of the home. So the parent need not worry about the safety of the child. So from the comfort of their home, actually they can volunteer. So we have exclusive programs for children, and we have exclusive programs for adults. So Kindness Club is all about, teaching and encouraging children to volunteer at a very young age.
Okay, so if a school is interested to collaborate with you for this Kindness Club, so what are the steps a school should take
They can directly reach out to us via our website or something, and we will get in touch with them. We'll guide them, and mostly now all these kindness clubs we are converted into children volunteering programs. So we now work with some of the international schools. A lot of, in fact, children who children of NRIs are actually volunteering with Team Everest, because if you look at Western countries, right, especially US and all, they ask very young children to volunteer, clock certain volunteering hours. So I think that's very good actually, because it's giving them an opportunity to come and work in a place like this. So, we have some tie-ups with some of these schools where they circulate mails to the students and encourage the children to volunteer. So any schools can reach out to us, and we can partner for some of these specific children volunteering initiatives.
Absolutely, because Karti, I can share one of my experience when I was in the US. I've seen because my son was also going to school over there. We were in Phoenix, Arizona. I've seen they there are a number of hours and it is mandate for them. You have to go and volunteer. Maybe you can select a hospital and go volunteer. So
Yes.
I was like looking for if that can also be possible and becomes a curriculum. It's a part of the curriculum in India. If that happens in India as well, schools can take those steps, that would be really wonderful. And this empathy, these are the things which is very natural for being a human. But it's really we now we are teaching them. That's a irony part of it. But yeah, if that can also be possible, and if you can work towards it to make it a syllabus for them, that would be really great. So and thank you so much that you like, because I keep on interacting with few schools, and if so happen I can propose this idea to them as well, so that
Sure.
we can create more awareness regarding that. So now my next question is like, we are going through this pandemic. So I could see that I think you were working towards this COVID livelihood relief fundraising campaign. So and I think it is still on, Karthi, right?
Sir?
The fundraising program is still on, or
No, it was over long time back.
it's over. So what was all about this? Is it related to the same volunteering program of something, or you were focusing on a particular group of people? You can
Yeah.
say something about it.
See, what happened is, when the country went into the lockdown, COVID, right? So a lot of people lost their jobs. So when we did a small, survey, so we found out more than 50-60% of our scholars' children lost their jobs. Scholars' parents actually lost their jobs actually.
Mhm.
So because most of these people are what is a housekeeping staffs or cooks in homes. So when pandemic happened, lockdown came in, so people stopped allowing cooks inside their home. In fact, even in our home, right, we stopped the cook to come inside our home. So there was a job loss there, right? So a lot of people lost jobs and they couldn't continue it further. And we found out that they do not have money for their next food on their table actually. So what we did is we explained this to our volunteers, and we raised funds, and we paid directly, up to 7,000 rupees per family for 2 months. We actually raised and we paid. I think I'm not very sure of the numbers. It's been a long time almost now, but we raised more than some 40-45 lakhs, and we helped around 600 to 700 families. We actually helped during that time. So one thing is this. We called it as COVID livelihood funds. And last year we also launched COVID scholarship. So what happened is, see, a lot of families, all their savings was lost when they lost the job, and also there were families who couldn't send their students to college once they finished their say 12th grade. So because they spent all their savings already. So we identified some 50 such families, and we are sponsoring 50 children for their college graduation right now. And throughout the pandemic period, we also did a lot of volunteering, virtual training programs. Our volunteers were teaching around 7,000 children virtually over phone during the pandemic period. So I think I was very happy. And we had an office before the pandemic. We closed it. We thought it will probably for 1 week or 1 month, but it got extended. Now we permanently closed our office, and our entire team is doing virtually working from home right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is pandemic, taught many lessons, I would say, rather, so that you can go beyond your limiting beliefs and, unleash your potential. So that's what is happening with all of us. So Karti, you have a nice team. They're working remotely for this great cause. So how do you inspire and motivate your team to keep up this work? Because being in this pandemic, we are going through a lot of fluctuations in our emotions. We all are going through. And it's a challenge. At time we are very happy and hopeful that things would be all right. At times, by looking at the news and hearing the news, it's like we don't know what is going to happen and all that. So in this kind of challenging situation, being the hero of Team Everest, how do you inspire your team, and how do you consistently do it? That's my question.
Got it. See, what happened is naturally a lot of my teammates, right, are actually very personally motivated and inspired people. Because, like, if not, why should they actually, first of all, come and work in a non-profit? So for us, the real rewards is actually the smiles that we put on the children's face, and probably I would say the happiness that we bring to our volunteers by enabling them to give back to the society. I think for us, that is our true reason. I mean, which like helps us wake up every day and work hard. So in fact, after COVID, what has happened is all our volunteering peaked because a lot of people found time and they can volunteer from the comfort of the home.
Mhm.
So we were very busy actually during the entire COVID period. So we didn't have time to actually relax. So we were working like 200% much harder than what we used to work when we used to go to an office. So I would say, like I did not do anything particularly special. In fact, I didn't do anything particularly special. All we do is day in and day out, we enable volunteers to give back to the society. We bring in children, we teach them with the help of our volunteers. I think for us, that's the true reward. And, like for us, I mean, that makes us happy. So when you are actually happy, right, when I always see no one has complained about work or something, because for them, right, for most of them this is actually not work. The way they look at it as, like, I mean, that's a huge sense of purpose for the work that they actually do. So I would say a lot of our people are very personally motivated. And I mean, like I didn't need to do anything to provide some external motivation. But one thing we made sure is we connect very often on the phone or on calls. Actually, whenever we do video calls, I personally insist my teammates to switch on their video so that you put a face to that. And so a lot of meetings has been done, and most of the times we were in meetings, speaking and like making some huge progress. So we never felt like there is a pandemic happening outside. Actually, I mean, to be very honest.
So a lot of positivity you were sharing with each other, and they are anyhow all of them are self motivated.
Yeah, so there was a lot of feedbacks that came from volunteers, students, parents. Like we get a lot of feedbacks how like our support was very meaningful to them. So in fact, even during this last pandemic, during the scholarship program, so we selected 450 children to support for their UG degree, which is like almost 125% more than what we used to support before pandemic actually. So all our programs actually grew during pandemic. So I mean, for us at least, this pandemic was an opportunity to like grow further, learn from the experience. I think it's I mean, I would say this crisis for us, it was an opportunity to like become better and help more children.
Yeah, I think you might have got a lot of more volunteers to might have started volunteering in this pandemic time. So
Yes.
yeah. So yeah. So Karthi, so can volunteering be chosen as a career path? Can a person, if he or she wants to choose volunteering as a career path, then can it be done? If yes, then because as you said that the team should get self motivated, and it is a non-profit organization. So so if a person decides to take it as a career path, what are the opportunities, and uh, without any fear factor about survival issues and all that, can it be taken as a career?
Yes, see, yes, there are career opportunities in the non-profit. This is called as development sector, and there are professional courses first of all available for this. So like a bachelor degree, we have something called as BSW, Bachelor in Social Work, MSW, Master in Social Work. So a lot of children in many colleges in India, they offer these courses, which people take it up and either they become an HR or they become a social worker. So there are a lot of opportunities available with respect to that. And like there's a CSR law in India, so to know a lot of people get opportunities to serve as part of a corporate. There's a corporate social responsibility
Yes.
department in a lot of these companies, so where people like take up CSR roles and volunteers. There are avenues over there. And apart from these things, I guess non-profits, see, a lot of people actually as a I mean, they think, like if you work in a non-profit, you don't get a salary. I think that's a huge wrong conception which people have. So there's a difference between a volunteer and a social worker. So professional social worker. Okay, so a volunteer is someone who gives his time or money, voluntarily. But people in non-profits, right? Because people in non-profit also has families to feed. So obviously, like without giving them a salary, they can't run their life. So we have very big non-profits, like say we have non-profits, say with 500 crores, 1,000 crores budget also in India. And we have non-profits which is very, very poor also. Okay, so just like how businesses are there, right? You have billions of dollars companies also, you have very small startups also, right? So there are, I mean, lakhs of non-profits in India also. So depending on the non-profit that you join, your salary structure will vary. But in nutshell, there are many, like very big non-profits are very, very small in number, and probably mid-sized non-profits are something you will find a lot. So when you join these non-profits, yes, you can't probably expect a salary that you used to get in a corporate at times. If the non-profits you join do not have a huge budget, but you will still get a very decent salary if you choose a non-profit which has good budgets at the back end. So people think, like I told you, people think that you don't get a salary. That's not true. This is a professional course. It's a professional social worker. So when I went and Googled it, right, I figured it out. In US, 10% of the US working population works in social sector, development sector. Imagine 10% of the working population. 1 in 10 American is working on the non-profit sector over there. So this is, I mean, so I see Western side. There's a lot of awareness about it, growth about it. People who are passionate go study those roles and get into the sector here. In India, it's slowly picking it up. I think probably 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, I will see, like there's a lot of awareness and a lot of people wants to come and be part of this sector.
Yeah, so absolutely, you said the right thing because, as I said, no, it starts from the school level itself in the western part, and that's the reason they know about it. Because I have seen in my surrounding there were people in the high school. So one fine day they're not there on Sundays. If you just talk to their mom, they would say that okay, they need to cover up that number of hours. So they might have gone to a to do some social work in a hospital, or they might have chosen. There will be some options to choose. So might be because of that that awareness is right there in Western countries. So as I said, no, if this can be added over here, even my son is also in grade 7. So I be really glad, and he is also very kind of a helping guy. So if that happens, then that each child will get that opportunity to practice that compassion they are born with, and that would make a lot of difference from them, because after that you need not create that awareness, they would be with them, and then when they grow up, they become youth, they would be doing whatever they can do best wherever they are. So I take it in this way. So from here, Karthi, my next question is, what are some of the long term objectives that you look for from now, from this pandemic, for the next 1 year, 2 year, maybe 5 years, uh, that you are planning to see it completed, or any such great project that you are working on, or you are planning to start?
Yeah, see, basically we have a 2025 goal at Team Everest. The idea is to 10x the number of beneficiaries. So we basically currently work with 40,000 children. We are trying to make it 4 lakh children by in next 5 years. So that's our one of our primary goal, and 10x everything you do. Like whatever volunteers we have, can you 10x it by in future? So that is the overall idea.
Okay. And in this journey, Karthi, I'm sure that you might have faced a lot of criticism as well.
Uh, Criticism, yeah. See, people will sometimes tell in front of you, or some people will tell, like at your back end. I think I don't see. I mean, probably I don't listen to such things. Yes, there are very constructive criticism. Sometimes when it comes, it makes sense. But I have not seen a lot of people coming and criticizing you or like that. Mostly, what I have heard is a lot of motivation and guidance and support from people where like they are able to come and support us in this journey. So I would say like I mean, a lot of time I would say the fight is actually between inside you. Like you will start thinking whether you will be able to do it, you will achieve it or you will fail. So there's a lot of confusion that goes inside. So the biggest war happening inside your mind, not actually outside. So that's
Inner.
what actually say. So yeah. So ideally, like I don't need any external motivation or external like external things to happen, because personally I was very motivated and I know where my happiness lies. So when you are happy, right? I mean, when what you do brings in happiness, I think I would say you are the most luckiest person in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, wonderful answer, Karthi. And yeah, you said it very rightly because the whole war is right here, you versus you. That's the main word, and then you have to figure it out. That self-talk has to be very positive. So now my favorite question, Karthi, that is like, I know because see, volunteering makes people happy. So uh, do you think that does volunteering make people happy, or are happy people simply more likely to volunteer?
Yeah. See, I would say both actually. And there are a lot of researchers which have shown that, like people who volunteer, who involve in this kind of charity work, have less amount of stress. They are more happier than other people. So that their mental well-being is good. So there's a lot of research that actually shows us, because like the way I look at it is giving is something that's been part and parcel of you right from the day you're born, right? As a human, I think we have inherited this for a very long time. So it's just that our busy lives keeps us busy all the time, and you don't find time to do that. But see what happens, and I have seen like people when they're getting gold and probably getting rich also. So I've giving. I mean, they start getting themselves involved in charity. So I think like when you get old, the number of days you are going to probably live is lesser than the number of days you already live, right? So when they actually get closer to, you count the number of days when you are going to live, right? Slowly that probably, I don't know, maybe the fear kicks in, or they probably like they start reflecting on the mistakes they did in life, and maybe trying to compensate some of these things by doing good. I don't know, like, so there's been research being done on this. But ideally, like when you get old, probably the other answer could also be you getting more matured and you trying to understand. You might have seen a lot of problems in your life by the time, and now you are in a position to give a lot of people give actually. So when they get old or rich, at the other time, what I have found out is, you see a lot of volunteers in Team Everest. Their average age is like between 21 to 30, 35, like that. Very young people, especially freshers coming inside, right? What I have already found is parents play a very, very crucial role, just like in my life, right? So the kind of values they have been taught in their family life make a very, very huge impact. So your parents talk about, or your grandparents talk about giving, helping others, helping strangers, right? I think that becomes a very strong value system, and people carry it forward. So I would say some parents are listening to it. It's definitely a role of parents to like teach these very crucial values to people, so that the future India or the future world will be more kinder and empathetic towards others.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about parents, what at least one or two things each parent, like each home, should be doing to be a role model for their children, because being in pandemic, so what can be done being in their space if they do not want to go out and volunteer? So still, what are the possibilities of, if you can just suggest one or two things each parent, each parents from each home can do, so that if their children are looking at them, they can start modeling them, right?
Yeah.
They can.
See, to start with, probably you need to walk the talk, because see, if you are telling the child to be honest, but you are not honest in front of a child, obviously the child are not going to listen to you. So you will definitely walk the talk. I have always seen my parents do what they actually say. So that is the starting point to start with. Second thing is, there's a lot of virtual, like I told you, even in Team Everest, we have a lot of children volunteering opportunities. They can just go to our Team Everest website, on the menu, there's an option called as events where we have listed children volunteering. They can pick it up. We have some 7 to 10 different volunteering opportunities which children can do from home. So they can have a look into it, sign up for that activity and volunteer from there. So these are very simple activities. Probably it could even be a family bonding time where you work with your child together and help the child learn in the process. So yeah, so those are very simple things you can do on a weekend, or just with 1 2 hours you can do lot of things like that.
Yeah, I've gone through those links and I find it very interesting. I'm going to share it with my son as well so that he can also contribute in that. And this very recently, I think last month, I enrolled myself to a voluntary program with Team Everest and with other couple of organizations as well outside. So in this video, I would like to thank Manohar particularly because Manohar had shared this link of Team Everest to me. So actually Manohar is from Hexagon and I happen to conduct few workshop over there. So from there, see how the dots are joined, Karti. This is so wonderful because, otherwise it was like, like I didn't know this is how so beautiful it is because if you're in the space of volunteering, universe also starts conspiring to make your dream come true. So I was always wondering that if I can get associated with a few NGOs in the last year, and I think I did some research work, but then it was not successful because I might have like I shared few emails also to few NGOs, but I didn't get responses. But then when I started to know Manohar and when he shared about this Team Everest, from there my volunteering journey also started, and my batch is in the month of April with Team Everest. So it's that 50 days program and a few one-on-one mentoring session with the NGO also has started last week. So I'm in the journey of this volunteering and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And so thank you so much, Karti, and for your time, the kind of person you are. I'm so blessed to know you. And I will be sharing all the links over here in the video itself, in our description, so that people would get to understand about these are the links, and even the children can also get an opportunity to go through that and start volunteering.